Hey everybody, it's me, Raymond, and it's been quite a while since I've streamed Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duels. I was always preoccupied with something else, you know? Huh? Oh, yeah. Good for you. Wow, I made one and now I already got one. That's strange. Much better. No, never it comes to my stream anyway, so there's no point in looking at the comments. There's a lot of scenarios. The secret powers of the planet. A few years had passed since that nightmare of a tragedy. When Orion awoke, he found that the girl and her brother were no longer with him. Was IB really gone now? For good? The loss of the girl had gripped even Orion's heart like an unbreakable vice. I couldn't protect IB. If only I were stronger, then her death could have been avoided. The battle that left a chasm in Orion's heart. Now that IB was gone, Orion had tasted for the first time just how terrifying the battle could be, and how devastating losing someone you treasure could be. He didn't have the heart to go on with his journey. Not for now. However, there was still one thing on his mind that bothered him. It was Nigushu. Even now, Oram still had no idea where he had gone. No doubt despair had taken him now that his beloved sister was no more. And when Oram thought about how Ninjutsu must be feeling right now, his heart became fraught with immovable weight. But that was exactly why Oram had to go after his childhood friend, and so the swordsman resumed his journey with Amda. It was when panic was beginning to settle in Oram's mind. Was it coincidence, or did the Nick Knights that dwell within him had led him to... Wait. He stumbled across a domain crawler. It occurred to Oram that his might lead to a clue. He could try to restore it and see if his communication system still worked. Oh wait, see if its communication system still works. And we got 3 copies of Crusadia Maximus. Oram succeeded in restoring the crawlers and gained access to his communication system, along with a number of records. That detailed area in which the swarms were active, and data on the locations where many crawlers had been destroyed. Perhaps there was still some life left in those areas, and if there was, maybe they would know where Ningirsu has gone. Armed with his new clue, Oram set off to an area he had gleaned from the records. However, as unusual as the information was, it unfortunately didn't make Oram's expedition any easier. There was nary a sign of life to be spotted anywhere, and the journey was looking like it could end in vain. Nature, uncaring and unrelenting, continued to batter the two maliciously. But at last, a glimmer of hope at the end of the Arceus tunnel. Oram and Amda had stumbled across the remaining tribes of the planet. It had the Fury Reclusive, the Stalwart Beasts, and the sacred lakeside trees. Although this encounter brought no clue to that's hard to say. His whereabouts, Oram and Amda were praised with the legends and knowledge of these tribes, and by linking them together, Oram was able to unlock the great secret power of the world and witness the tremendous power that slumbered in its depths. It made him think of the world challenge powers that were bestowed to him. But this was greater, far greater, hiding unbeknownst to the dwellers of the planet. Was this what Lee had sought? Oram thought. Huh, we got a protector. What were the more secrets dwelling beneath the surface? One of them was the rebirth records, inscribed with the history of the planet, chronicles from generations long forgotten. And the other begone memories of the planet's glorious age, where humans ruled from the apex. Long, long ago, there was a god who ruled the skies. With dragonkind as its disciples, it persevered the cycles of destruction and rebirth to maintain the balance of the realm. However, the scale of the destruction grew bigger every time, and one day, the balance of the two were thrown into great disarray. Once this delicate balance toppled, even the sacred skies could not hold back the destruction it wrought. The god decided that it could no longer oversee the skies by itself. With its power and creation, it brought forth layers and layers to the toughest earth, and sealed the power of destruction within. With nowhere to go, the power raged and raged until it boiled and scourged the very earth, morphing it. The torrent of power rushed through the land and emerged with the powers of creation, leaking out into the surface. It became a small manifestation of the cycle of death and rebirth, and gave life to the lands. With the last of its strength, the god then turned itself into a key and entrusted it to the life blooming on the planet before vanishing. In the years following its disappearance, the powers of destruction re-emerged on the surface many times. However, every time it did, the life of the planet would use the key, and with the help of the dragon kind, pushed it back to whence it came. Over time, the key came to known as the world, and the power of destruction as the Great Darkness. Thus, the great legend of the world hero was born. Starlit hero, your sword swathed in light, may you triumph over the great darkness. Alright, if I ever get the chance to play this, I only play one gate at a time. Decades, centuries, maybe millennia passed since the beginning of the Rebirth records. The land was now populated with its life known as humanity. There were civilizations who had granted scientific knowledge and technological know-how, and were at the height of their prosperity. Their glory came at a cost, for it not only tore the planet's gifts away with it, but also the dragons who protected. The god and the dragons that once were have faded into obscurity as mere tales. And it was during this time that the key was excavated and uncovered. The humans were exhilarated by such a legendary and mythical find. Although its authenticity became grandiosely acknowledged, some expressed worries and doubts at the discovery. What did it mean for the key to have resurfaced in this time? Was this an omen, warning them of an inevitable battle between the world hero and the great darkness, like the legend said? Now that they could see that the key exists in this sword form, did this not also mean that the powers of destruction were indeed sealed deep within the planet's crust? Humanity began to assemble their finest to analyze the key. Within the team that had formed, there was a scientist who had shown her talent in all fields of medicine, astronomy, and archaeology. Her name was Lee. Lee was known all over the world as the foremost authority on computer science. The analysis was able to proceed smoothly thanks to her involvement, and not long ago, the team branded itself as an organization called Crasudia, under the jurisdiction of the Conference of Nations. Once they had analyzed the key further, they began to drift a plan that would help fight the immediate threat, to their planet. It would involve warriors of the mechanical nature, and they called it Project Midnight. Work was to proceed without a moment delay. Meanwhile, Lee drew up a hypothesis and sought to validate it in secret. She wanted to get them to the root of the appearance of the Great Darkness that world hero legend spoke of. Recorded in the legend were multiple tales of the key being used to drive back the Great Darkness, to harness the powers of creation and destruction. It was a simple enough story. The Great Darkness would appear and the world hero would fight it back with the key. However, could the reverse also be not true? That use the key was the very thing that draw the Great Darkness out? It was those who were entrusted with the divine mission and the constipation? Whatever. Who sought to revive the power of destruction. The world hero legend was ultimately a story of their power struggle over the city. Whether they has the key will control the fate of the world. Or so went Lee's hypothesis, anyway. And the more time she spent trying to validate it, the darker her ambitions grow. The divine powers will be mine. Well, that's no surprise. Sooner or later someone gets it deep into something, you know they're going to use it for evil. A few years have now passed since Project Midnight began. And finally, the Midnight of the Morning Star was complete. It had been fitted with a core powered by the key and possessed enough power to fight the most deadly of wars. However, the incident occurred during its test run, with none other than Lee as its test pilot. With the key, she had reversed all the celestial powers coursing through its mechanical body and dispersed them to the planet's core, faster than anyone could make a move. Lee had planned all of this out before taking her place as test pilot. The power had flowed into the planet's core, split the lands, and once again the destruction from within overflowed to the surface, scorching every bit of earth that it touched. The entire world was beginning to split apart in this unprecedented disaster, and the revival of the Great Darkness drew ever near. However, his resurrection was not without its obstacles. The Crusadia had created an assistant units, 7 Midnight in total. The remaining Midnights faced off against Midnight of the Morning Star and destroyed it, sealing away the Great Darkness back within the earth once more. But the Great Darkness was at the end of the day a divine force, one that the mortals failed to seal away completely. Inspired by the key, the team decided to put their powers into physical vessels of their own and left them on the surface as legacies. Now that the lands were ruined, it was getting harder and harder to live in such conditions. It seemed that life on this planet would be greatly snuffed out, including humanity. The reason why the Master of the Key, the world hero, didn't appear in our time of need is because we humans drained the planet of its power. Throughout the Crusadia, they began to mobilize to put an end to humanity's so-called glory, and it was the largest obstacle to the revival of the barren lands and the planet's chance of surviving. They left the 7 Midnights they had built in their ruined world after they were programmed with instructions to help rekindle the planet. The Mech Knights were also installed with data of the Crusadia members they had established a brain link with. If the lands could be healed once more and the planet could take back the power it once had, then perhaps they would avoid immense disaster. The Crusadia left all their hope to the faraway future they might not even reach. However, there was one thing they failed to realize. The mastermind behind this incident was Lee, and she had already been taken to the burning lands. Where she was found, she was already dead. Only in flesh, her soul had been released from its physical vessel, and she was transferred into World Legacy, World Chalice, her will and knowledge. Don't you just hate it when everyone always wants power? The tremendous power that dwelled within the planet was the very thing that Lee was after. Though Oram, suddenly he was struck by a sense of terror. He could feel a great force of malice that threatened the planet, but from where he could not tell. Perhaps someone somewhere was beckoning to the darkness, trying to bring it forth. He had to stop them before another terrible disaster happened. And in that moment, in Oram's mind, the figure of Ninjutsu appeared. The figure of his childhood friend, tormented with sadness on the loss of IB, seeking darkness in his despair of the world. Although slight, he could feel his presence within the malice. It couldn't be. Oram regained his uneasy heart in. He would need help to stop the malice. He asked the elders of each tribe to lend him their strength, and they answered his pleas with a great number of warriors and the tribes united in a formidable alliance. They named themselves after the warriors of old that their writings spoke of, and thus the second coming of the Crusadia was born. The Crusadia were taken to a hidden spot by the tribe of the sacred trees and activated World Legacy, World Crown. Oram and his companions have now obtained power that could help them combat the malice that threatened their world. The Crusadia began their advance towards the giant tower at the center of all the malice. The orchestrated ball bell, towering into the sky in its metallic magnificence. Surrounding it were the Orcus, mechanical weapons waiting on standby in silent formations. At the town's base was Ninjutsu, and activating World Legacy World Wand was the one thing on his mind. Now that Oram could see his childhood friend, the swordsman could only think about how much sadder he looked. Oram prayed that he was only overthinking the situation, but he knew that their reality was not a kind one. Ninjutsu was here because he wanted the power of darkness, and he was at the center of malice Oram had felt. That was the truth that awaited him at the end of his long search. But no matter how much time had passed, no matter how things had changed, the one thing that remained the same was that Ninjutsu was still his friend. Oram thought about what he could do now he was here. He had to stop him from starting a disaster that could mean the end of the world. The only one who can stop this villainy is me. Oram thought, gathering all his courage. He signaled for his companions to mobilize, and now a new battle was about to begin. Really? Ningirsu's sorrow. When Ningirsu saw what had happened, the bolt of guilt pierced through his grief. Even in his desperation, he never imagined this would happen. His eyes could hardly believe what they were seeking. How did all this happen so fast? He prayed that it might have turned off my mic. He prayed that he was dreaming, and that he was going to wake soon. All he wanted was to see his dear sister again. At the scene of another nightmare unfurl around him, he became embroiled in a storm of emotions. I need to save IB. Even as his mind was numb with stupor, Ningirsu's body began to move without command. In what looked like an impulsive choice, he struck his childhood friends unconscious, taking both the other man's sword and Eve. What good was this world if Eve was not in it? He would do anything, be it good or evil, if it meant that he could see her smile again. That single thought of getting his sister back was all Ningirsu needed to force his weary limbs forward. He had the Meknight's cores from when the 6 nightmares were defeated. And now, he also had the sword that he took from Oran. Using the faculties that were still present in the Meknight's headquarters, he analyzed the artifacts with feverish desperation. This world possesses a mystical power similar to that of the world legacies. And if anything had a clue regarding its come on, get my words together. Pacifics. It would be the Meknights. They might even have a way to bring Eve back. Although he was unable to glean a way to resurrect Eve, he learned a great deal about a number of faculties from the ancient organization. Ningirsu left the Meknight headquarters and set out to each one of them with the lifeless body of his sister in tow. Many of the faculties he visited had already ceased to work, and the one that barely did provided little to no useful information. However, Ningirsu never gave up. There may be a way he could save Eve somehow. With the unwavering belief in his heart, he resumed his grueling journey. And finally, at long last, he discovered an ancient faculty that was still in working condition. Don't get me wrong, I would do everything for my sisters, but nothing like this. After countless weary roads walked, Ningirsu had gone through more information than any average man would in his life. He had thoughtfully inspected the Meknight's cores in several ancient facilities. With what he had gathered, including files on the key and technologies thought to be long lost, he had finally unlocked the secrets hidden within the planet. And the truth of the world that had been shrouded in mystery, Ningirsu trembled with joy. He could revive his sister now. With his newfound certainty, Ningirsu set about creating a vessel that could house Eevee's soul using the ancient technologies. However, this task was to be the most difficult yet. Trial after trial resulted in countless failures and thereby products. And as the days ticked by, he had amassed enough vessels to create his own army. But at last, his effort paid off. He had finally created a mechanical doll that would work. By synchronizing the doll with the body of his dead sister, he also succeeded in reinitializing the functions of one of the twin swords vessel to his planet. So much time had been poured into the endeavor, but at least there was something to show for it. A strange sense of elation began to bubble within Ningirsu. His sister had given her life for this world. Now it was time for him to create a new world for her. Now that Ningirsu had the mechanical doll's powers, the second step of the plan to build orchestrated Bahamut could finally begin. Link summon Crusadia Equinox and win the duel during this turn. First, normal summon Crusadia Reclusia and use it as the link material to link summon Crusadia Magnus. Next, special summon the Crusadia Leonis and activate the effect of Crusadia Magnus. Use 2 more. you're going up. Okay. Is Link coming again? Oh man. That was awesome. Alright, let's do this right. Don't let me down! Sorry. Let's see if I can do this with my dragon deck. Oh, this is a bad hand. Ow. You gotta be kidding me! I started duel and I ended up with just nothing but spell cards in my hand. Alright, that was my comedy. Oh, Nocturne. No. Wait, oh, this is my dad? It didn't do nothing. Don't tell me now! No! The Crusadia headed towards where Ninjutsu was. However, before they could reach him, they had to get past the countless Arceus weaponry. The Arceus were merciless, as they were numerous, and the Crusadia suffered greatly as they tried to fight with their way through. In the heat of battle, Oren began to feel that within orchestrated Bahamut there dwelled a power similar to that of his key. The mechanical vessel used whatever little of the key's power they had, and here inactivated orchestrated Bahamut. From the depth of the tower, a great light was released, and the tower itself seemed to almost fall away with this as the beam stretched into the sky above. No, the activation must be stopped, Orion thought as he dashed toward the machinery. However, before he could make any further, Ninjutsu appeared before him. It was the first time they had seen each other since the tragedy long ago. Their eyes met within the chaos of the battle. Orion opened his mouth to speak. Why, he asked, would you want anything to do with the great darkness? Why put our planet under threat like this? Why did you create this spiraling tower and this army of mechanical weapons? Ninjutsu had only one simple answer for him. For Eve. It was the only reason he needed. For his sister, he was willing to activate Bahamut to strike the World Legacy World 1 down from the sights and break the Earth's surface, so he could awaken the slumbering World Legacy World Arc and use its influence over life and death to revive Eve's soul. Then, after the great darkness has been freed from the earth, it is going to use its power to restore Eve. And now that he had heard the truth about Ninjutsu, Orion readied his sword, and knew that he had to stop this at all costs. Ninjutsu didn't budge, and instead swung his lance in return. No one was going to stand in his way, not even Orion. The swordsman knew that Ninjutsu longed Eve more than anyone in the world, but that did not make it right for him to put their entire planet in danger like this. Orion knew that Eve would not want this, even if it meant that he could live once more. However, for Ninjutsu, there was nothing he wanted more than to see his sister open his eyes again. And if it meant that he had to turn against the entire world, then so it be it. Both men had already made their minds up on what they wanted to achieve. Neither wanted to budge, so they clashed and neither could gain a decisive advantage. The orchestrated Bahamut activated, and at last the World One had been toppled. When it fell to the earth, it gored the land below, and the resulting shockwave reverberated across the entire planet. Oh shoot. And gate clear. I'll be back. I gotta take my dog out. Alright. Back in action. No one asked you to come here, Paul. Or any of you. What do you mean you? This is my solo mission and mine alone. Anyway, I'm done here anyway. Thanks for joining me today on this stream, and I'll see y'all later.